Alright, welcome back everyone. Scarland here, bringing you another Neverwinter video. In today's video topic, we're going to be discussing soloing dungeons in Module 16. Now, Thomas has been quoted saying numerous times that they kind of wanted to put an end to being able to solo any dungeons whatsoever. It's kind of frowned upon as a company aspect. Like I said, Thomas has said that numerous times that he doesn't really want people to have the ability to be able to solo any dungeons. And this was a big deal for me because I used to enjoy soloing dungeons. But not the sheer fact of just being able to solo dungeons. It's the fact that I'm able to carry people through dungeons. So if I want to run Kessels or something easy, I know for a fact that I can take anyone with me for the sheer fact that I know that I can solo the dungeon by myself. And this is how we've played the game for the past 15 modules. I would stream the game, and if I wanted to do a couple AD runs, I was able to do that. I would just pull random people out of my channel. It didn't matter what item level, they were. It doesn't matter what skill level they were. It didn't matter because I knew we were going to finish the dungeon because I knew that I could solo the dungeon. So pre-mod 16, I have soloed everything up until Tong. So, Kessels, Shores, Spiders, Castle Never, Fangbreaker Island, which took a just ridiculous amount of time, and even Spellplague Caverns, which took even longer to solo. Now, those were more along the lines of just an accomplishment, right? Soloing Fangbreaker and soloing Spellplague Caverns, that's just an accomplishment. Anything previous to that, Kessel, Shores, Spiders, Grey Wolf Den, Cragmire, Castle Never, all those dungeons are irrelevant. You would just, if you were able to solo those, then you had somewhat skill and you should have a sense of accomplishment. So here we are in Mod 16, and what you're watching in the background is Castle Never. Now, last week I posted a tweet on Twitter of me soloing CN in Module 16, and it took around 27 minutes or something. Now keep in mind that I had to pause a couple times for my action point regeneration to kick in and just stuff like that, It wasn't that big of a deal, but the point of this video and the discussion that I want to bring to you guys is that, yes, it's still possible to solo dungeons in Mod 16. I've done Kessels, I've done Shores, I've done Spiders, I've done CN, I've done Grey Wolf Den, I've done Cragmire, all fine. Now, the issue is that now that Mod 16 is here, everything does take a little bit longer. So, for instance, in Kessels pre-Mod 16, a Kessels run would literally take me 5 or 6 minutes solo, 4 minutes in a group. You could literally speed run through Kessels like it was nothing. And the same thing with Shores and Spiders, and so on. Now, in Mod 16, it does take a little longer. It actually took me almost like 12 minutes to do Kessels. And also keep in mind that I don't consider myself endgame right now. Remember, we've only gotten Mod 16 on console now for a little over 2 weeks. I'm still actually missing some of my gear. I don't have the Alabaster set, I'm missing a ring, and I need, I think, 2 artifacts. So, I'm not all the way maxed out of to where I need to be, and I'll redo all of these tests to see what the time is. This run that you're watching right now, I think I cut down my time by 2 minutes. I pushed it a little bit harder than the initial run that I did. And then I ran this several more times and I was able to get it down to like 23 minutes. If I'm able to get that down to around 20 minutes when I'm fully geared out and I have everything that I need, keep in mind, like I said, the Alabaster set is actually the most important thing to get because the base damage is 1,000 times more than what we currently have. I think the Warlock weapons currently are like, 3,300 damage, and the new weapon sets are 4,300 damage. And that's a huge deal. That's a huge damage increase. So I'm kind of interested to actually see where my run times get cut down to as far as solo play in Mod 16. Because keep in mind, like I said at the beginning of this video, Thomas has been quoted saying numerous times that he doesn't want solo play to be a thing. He wants people to, interact with each other and run dungeons as a group. It's supposed to be a MMO for a reason. He wants to really enforce that group play aspect. Well, my discussion question for today's video is mainly, well, people were saying that they want mythic tier dungeons, right? Everything is too easy. Even I've been quoted saying that the new dungeon, Lair of the Mad Mage, it's easy. It's really easy. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than what it was, and unfortunately, it's actually easy. Once you learn the mechanics, you should have no issues running the new dungeon. So people are asking for mythic versions of dungeons. Well, I want to go the other way with it as well. I want single-player dungeons. Why can't I queue for dungeons as a solo player? I mean, we can do that, but it's frowned upon by the company. They should have a dungeon tier system, and the loot should coincide with that. So let's say you run Castle Never, for instance, since that's what you guys are watching, by the way. These mobs right here actually killed me. I think this is the only time I die in this entire dungeon, is the two ranged fire beasts and this big fat guy right here. So I did burn a scroll right there. But yeah, that's actually a really weird section of the dungeon for some reason. And then you can see here, this is where some of my time actually eats up, is waiting for artifact cooldowns so I can switch loadouts. So I'm working on that to cut down my overall time frames for the dungeons. But like I said, so the discussion question is, I want to see tiered system dungeons with the loot coinciding. So if you solo queue for a Castle Never and you're able to complete Castle Never, you should be rewarded based on that. Now, if you go into Castle Never with a group, okay, you should be rewarded based on group play. Now, there should be a third tier, which would be your mythic dungeons, which are going to be the hardest versions of that dungeon. And the loot system needs to coincide with how hard the dungeon is. It's very easy. Like, I don't see the problem here on why they haven't implemented this in the game already. This is what the community and the player base wants. Now, like I said, if you queue into a dungeon solo, don't expect to get the same rewards as a mythic tier dungeon, right? Now, if you're doing the middle tier, the group tier, that's fine. It should be a little harder than the solo tier. And I'm not saying the solo tier needs to be super easy. The solo tier should still be challenging. So, it's just something to think about and something to ponder, because the company doesn't want you to be able to do this, right? And I'm telling you guys, you can do this. Pre-Mod 16, it was an accomplishment. It took a lot of skill to solo a lot of the dungeons. Has anyone soloed FBI? Leave me a comment below. Have you guys soloed Spell Plague pre-Mod 16? Very few people have and can say that they have done that. It was an accomplishment to do that. So here we are now in Mod 16, and it's my personal opinion that soloing dungeons actually has become a lot easier. You can see I'm having no issues. This is the first boss right here. As long as you're, somewhat skilled at the class you're playing, you should have no problem soloing any dungeon under CN. Fangbreaker is going to still be a headache. Spell Plague, still a headache. Tong, probably not doable. But all of the easy dungeons is what we're talking about here. And I think it's a lot easier to do now than pre-Mod 16. I think some of you guys out there that are mid-level players and still know how to play your class appropriately, if you never soloed Castle Never previous to, Mod 16, in Mod 16, I honestly think you could do it. You guys should try it and let me know in the comments below how well you do, or how long it took you, or whatever you want to add in your comment. But I firmly believe that right now, in Mod 16, it's actually easier to solo the dungeons than it was pre-Mod 16. So, the way that they're pushing the content and everything, I really think, and I really hope, that some sort of tiered system actually does come into the game eventually. Now, whether or not they'll add that solo tier, you know what, that's fine if they don't. I would love to see that, but if they don't do it, then, you know, it is what it is. But adding mythic tiered dungeons, like, no one is going to do dungeons right now, and I've been quoted saying that numerous times. There's no reason to go back and do any of these old dungeons or any of this old content. There's just no reason. There's no incentive to do it, and there's no reason to do it. But let's say you add a mythic tier of all these dungeons now, right? So if you have a mythic tiered Epic Temple of the Spiders, but you're offering better rewards, right? Put some, you know, enchanting stones out of there now. Put the new stones in there, the potency rank 7s, which you can only buy in the Wondrous Bazaar. Put those on the loot table in these mythic dungeons. Put epic mounts in there. Put coalescent wards. Put preservation wards. You have to align the loot tables with what the community currently needs, right? What about green insignias? Green mount insignias are the biggest bottleneck right now in Mod 16 for players trying to upgrade their insignias to legendary, right? Look on the auction house. Green insignias are selling for, you know, 60,000 AD for one, and you need 8 of them to make one legendary insignia. Now, of course, prices will fluctuate per platform, and the prices will fluctuate as time goes on. But there's no real way to get a static drop rate and flow of green insignias in the game, right? You can randomly get them out of just regular chests in the game. You can get them out of loot boxes. There are ways to get them, but the supply and demand don't coincide right now. The supply is very thin, and the demand is very high. So now you have something. Why not just include these dungeons with the rewards that the current player base needs to upgrade their character and progress their character? Am I making sense? Like, is this too hard to comprehend? Because I'm just an individual person that can obviously see how things should be run, but as a company aspect, they're not doing anything. And the community is just so tired of it, you know? Like, we've been preaching on this stuff for years. We wanted mythic dungeons years ago. And here we are, Mod 16, 2019, and we still don't have anything. We have Lair of the Mad Mage as our endgame dungeon, which is just super easy. I mean, even console people are running it between 18 minutes and 20 minutes, right? Like, the dungeon itself is not hard. Once you learn the general mechanics, and once your character gets, you know, geared out with all the stuff in Mod 16 that you need, there is no issues with running Lair of the Mad Mage. Like I said, personally I think the dungeon's actually too easy. So when exactly are they going to add mythic dungeons? Now, the point of the video, like I said, this is a solo discussion. So here we are in Castle Never. We're about halfway through the dungeon right now, and I haven't had any issues. I haven't had any issues in any of the dungeons I've soloed so far. Now, I haven't tried or attempted Fangbreaker in Mod 16. I haven't tried or attempted Spell Plague in Mod 16. Pre-Mod 16, those dungeons were taking just an astronomical amount of time, right? Like, that was super hard content for solo gameplay. But I accomplished it. Now, I'm curious to see in Mod 16 if it's actually easier, because everything else seems to be easier. I don't know if it's an issue with the scaling and how they did the scaling. Remember, they kind of nerfed it several times where they kept diminishing the overall hit points of the mobs in the dungeons because people were complaining about the scaling so much. Well, you can clearly see on my screen here that I'm just demolishing all this stuff. Like, it's no big deal. I'm either one-shotting or two-shotting, or at very least 3-shotting most of the trash mobs in Castle Never. Did they go too far with the scaling, right? Because if I can do this dungeon solo in 25 minutes, it should take group play 20 minutes or less, right? If you have a group of 5 and you're in Castle Never and I can do it solo in 25 minutes. If you group play should take 20 minutes or less. So my question is that did they go too far actually on the scaling? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I mean, I don't know. I am man enough to admit that I was one of the, people that were worried about the scaling issues when they were first announced. And when they first got implemented on PC, everything was broken. So now that we're coming toward the end cycle of Mod 16 and they have slowly started implementing all the fixes from Mod 16 from the launch until where we're at right now, the game seems overall fine. The scaling doesn't seem like an issue. Loot tables are still an issue. I mean, like I said, there's no incentive or any reason for any player to run any old content dungeon. There's just no reason for it. There's nothing there, especially now that we have all level 80 gear. Even if you get lucky and pull an artifact out of the end chest of a dungeon, 9 times out of 10, that artifact is going to be obsolete because it's considered a level 70 artifact, and now we're level 80, and we're progressing the game where now we're going to most likely see new artifacts coming out in the next several module updates. So even if you get lucky and you pull, let's just say, a random artifact, it's kind of worthless. The only good thing on the loot table these days are mount skins. So if you get lucky and you pull a mount skin that you didn't have, well, congratulations. But if you go and try to sell that mount skin, yeah, you're not going to make any money. The biggest concern of running dungeons is actually the rough AD. People are still complaining that they have issues hitting their 100,000 AD rough AD cap every day. This shouldn't be an issue. You can still do Demogorgon 10 times, and Demogorgon takes a little more time than pre-Mod 16, but it's still very doable. You could do 10 Demogorgons within probably a half hour, and that's 100k right there. So, yeah, I really don't know what to say. I mean, honestly, the biggest concern is content, and myself and other content creators, Cali Gold harps on this all the time. Cali harps on this all the time, that there's just not enough content in a mod release before the next mod comes out. So as a content creator such as myself or Cali, I do a lot more YouTube than Cali does, but Cali probably does a lot more streaming than I currently do. I've stepped back from the streaming a little bit. I don't stream as much as I did, and it's because lack of content. Currently in Mod 16, this is actually going to be the fastest module that I've ever completed in Neverwinter. The campaign wasn't time gated. You were able to do the entire campaign in one day. A week later, they gave us the dungeon. Once you ran the dungeon and got the artifact from the dungeon, you're pretty much done. As long as you could do your MEs 3 times a day and get your alabaster set and a ring and maybe a few select pieces of gear, that's it, guys. That's Mod 16 right there in a nutshell. Now, whether you continue to run your MEs every day because maybe you're trying to go for the Watcher set or something, that's everyone, everyone has to make that decision themselves. But as far as the content, we're almost done with it on console, right? I'm personally only missing, like I said, a few items, and I'm completely done with Mod 16. And we've only had Mod 16 for a little over 2 weeks. I'm not sure when you'll be watching this video or when this video is getting published, but regardless, it's been a little over 2 weeks, and Mod 16 has only been on console for, like I said, a little over 2 weeks, and I'm almost done with it. Mod 17, we're not going to get Mod 17 on console for several months, probably. I mean, we're talking about probably September, maybe even October, before console gets Mod 17. So as a content creator and a streamer, that's a huge problem. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to show the general public about Neverwinter when it comes to content? What am I supposed to stream? You can only run so many MEs a day. right? You can only run so many dungeons a day before you get bored. How many times can you run Lair of the Mad Mage before it's like, well, I mean, I don't even need anything out of here. Why am I even doing this dungeon anymore? So there's a lot of problems as far as how much content. And the bad thing is that Mod 16 was one of the biggest updates that they've pushed out through the game. Although Mod 16 has to be broken down into sectors, right? As far as content itself goes, there wasn't that much. It was a campaign, some master expeditions, and one dungeon. It's a typical Neverwinter mod release. Now, there was a lot more update because they rebalanced a lot of stuff. Remember, they rebalanced all the classes, they rebalanced the whole companion system, the whole boon system. Mod 16 came with a lot of changes, but not a lot of content. The content was on par with all previous modules that we've had. So, as a content creator, there's only so much that, like I said, Callie can do, I can do, these other content creators can do. We can only show the stuff. Like, no one wants to watch us run Lair of the Mad Mage 200 times. Especially when we ourselves don't even need anything out of that dungeon anymore. So, what is the goal here? What is the direction of the game going as far as content goes? They've already said that Mod 17 is going to be a lot smaller than Mod 16. So, I think they're going to be focusing on PvP in Mod 17. As far as content goes, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't even get a new campaign and we don't get a new dungeon. I really don't. I would be surprised. I think Mod 17 is going to be one of those B version mods that we used to get, right? It's going to be a continuation of something we already have. Are we going to go back to Ravenloft? Are we going to go back to the jungles of Schult? Are they going to continue the Undermountain campaign? Mod 17, I bet you any money, will not be a complete new module. And if it is a complete new module, it's going to be something very small, like Acquisitions Incorporated. Or are they going to continue Acquisitions Incorporated? I don't honestly think that Mod 17 is going to be a very big mod. I highly doubt that we're even going to get a new dungeon. Maybe we'll get a new skirmish or something. But I think the main focus of Mod 17 is going to be them working on PvP, unfortunately. So now where does that put us for content? Exactly. As a content creator, I'm going to be screwed. As a content creator, Callie's most likely going to be screwed. We're not going to have anything to show you guys for at least the rest of the year. Most likely. Like I said, you know, things can happen. We don't have any announcements on Mod 17 yet. This is all just assumption. But, you know, I've been around the block for a very long time, especially when it comes to Neverwinter, and especially when it comes to gaming overall. So, I just don't want any of you guys to get your hopes up thinking we're going to get, you know, Mod 17 is going to be another huge update or something. Yeah, I don't see that happening. It's going to be very unlikely. Like I said, it's either going to be a continuation of a module that we already have, or it's going to be a small little Puffy Luffy mod like Acquisitions Incorporated was. So, as far as content goes, for the remainder of the year, I mean, we're at what, July right now? The next 5 months, for console at least, is going to be very, very dry. And the game is already in a state right now where they have lost so many players. So many players have left the game in Mod 16 already, guys. What's going to happen to the game? You know, where's the status of this game going to be going into the year 2020? I don't know, and only time will tell. Like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We're on the last boss here now. We're at Orcus. You can see me. I already have him halfway down. Not any issues. All you have to do is make sure you're dodging. I can almost one-shot all these trash mobs right here, which just completely just nullifies this stage anyway. So, yeah. I know Thomas really frowns upon soloing dungeons, and, you know, I don't agree with that. I think it should actually be encouraged. You know, if your character is strong enough to do this, I think you should have a solo queue specifically set up with rewards for solo queues like this. And then, like I said, you can have a mid-tier group dungeon queue and then a mythic dungeon queue. There should be three different tiers in my eyes. That's never going to happen. I wish it would, but yeah, it's never going to happen. But at least give us a mythic tier. Give us Castle Never that's hard. Like, actually makes the healer pay attention and heal the tank, and the DPS have to do the DPS. But I mean, I'm here in mod 16 and I'm soloing this. Like, it's no big deal. And this was one of my major concerns. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I don't want to ramble too long. It should be about a 25-minute video because that's how long it took me to do this dungeon. Hopefully I can cut down on that time. I'm sure I will. Like I said, once I get my weapons situated and I get all the rest of the gear that I need, I'll be completely done with mod 16. I should be able to actually solo this dungeon in 20 minutes, the same as like a group would be able to do it. So you can see here 25 minutes, almost 26 minutes. And that's with pausing, and I did die once. It happens. It is what it is. But like I said, Kessels and Shores and Spiders, they're all very doable. And I think a lot of you guys will be able to do them now in mod 16, where previously in pre-mod 16 you weren't. So give it a try. Leave me a comment below. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really don't have any much more to say, really. Honestly. Look, the same shitty rewards, though. I mean, I'm not going to re-roll this. Oh, look, I got a Tiamat sash, you know? It's like, yippee skippy, right? Like, it is what it is, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.